I'm Ryan. I'm a science teacher.
I'm Cheryl, and I slept through science.
Each episode will tackle a science question you may have learned in school, but can't quite remember or fully explain.
And I'll take the risk of asking the dumb questions so that we can all understand the science we slept through.
The bell has rung. Let's get started. Welcome to lesson 33. We are in our last lesson of our color unit. So Cheryl, you better make it a good one.
Oh, do I have a good one?
Yeah?
This is a very good one.
Okay.
So here's the thing, is at this point, I'm kind of a color expert. I know all about like light waves and refraction and reflection and all sorts of things. I know so many color things that we've covered.
Yep.
But here's this one thing that I still don't get.
Okay.
And I need to take you back to the year 2015.
Okay.
To an internet phenomenon, sensation.
Ooh.
It's something that really like just broke the internet. It was something where like you could not enter a room without people talking about this thing that was going on that they saw on Facebook. And it was breaking people's brains actually more than it was even breaking the internet, I think.
Okay.
And it was the dress.
What's so funny is I know exactly which dress you're talking about if you say the dress.
Yes. Yes, because all of these people had the same experience and it blew their mind and they could not explain the science behind it.
Well, I thought that it was that people didn't have the same experience.
Okay. They have the same experience and that they were like I knew this girl and she was like, my twin and I are looking at this picture and seeing different things and we're standing right next to each other. And so everybody had that experience where they were like, how can you see something different than what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
And so I would like to share the picture of the dress, the picture.
Okay.
That was on the internet.
Okay.
That just like made the world explode a little bit. So first of all, I do have to ask you, Ryan, what colors do you see?
So what colors do I see? Which is a different question than what color is the dress? Okay.
Well, what was the question was, what color is this dress?
Right. And so, I know the answer to the question.
Yes.
But for me, the colors that I see are not the colors that the dress actually is.
Okay. What colors do you see?
I see white and gold. No question. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit do I see blue and what the other one is black or whatever. And I've even seen a picture of the real dress and I was like, that doesn't look like the same dress to me. Because you see blue and whatever, black.
Well, here's my weird experience.
Okay.
Is I see blue and gold. And the whole thing was like when this picture went on the internet, it was like, what color do you see? And then you're not kind of even supposed to know what the options are until you say what you see.
Yes.
And so it's funny because then after I saw the picture, I saw like, oh, everybody's saying either white and gold or blue and black. And I was like, well, I see blue and gold. So now I don't know who I am. And so it's bonkers because, and like, I could have told you, and okay, so here's a follow-up question because I want to know your experience with this part of it is I see blue and gold, but I can tell by looking at the picture that it is a blue and black dress. Could you tell that it was a blue and black dress or did you have to learn the answer later?
No. Like even like can you see it in this picture that you're sharing right now? Nope. Not at all. Like there is a little bit of a blue tint to the white. Like I can
see white.
Oh, it's white. It's totally white. It's not even like a little bit. Like there's even a question in my mind. I do not understand how people see a different color than that. Like experientially. Wow. Like intellectually, I understand it. But like I do not even see it a little bit. Some people likened it to like an optical illusion.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, where like,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you can see like the
The old woman or the duck.
yes,
Or
exactly.
things
Or
like
what,
that.
or like the rabbit and the duck, or yeah, whatever those things are.
Yeah.
Those I can go back and forth and I can see both of those things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't see both of these. I only see white and gold. And like I
And
said, I can see that the white is a dirty white and it definitely has a blue tint to it,
okay.
but I would never call it blue. And
Wow.
the gold is not even a little black. Like I do not understand where the black comes from at all.
Okay, that's so interesting to me. And I think this is exactly why this picture broke the internet
Yeah.
and stirred up conversations. Is it is very different than the rabbit and the duck, where eventually
Yes.
you're like, oh, okay. Like this is like, no, I cannot see through your eyes. You know,
Yep.
and so for me, it is so clearly blue. And I see gold, but I can tell, okay, but the picture is just like it looks gold and I can tell that it's actually black. Like I see some black and some gold where it's like, yeah, but obviously like it's light reflecting and that makes it look gold. And so I knew the answer to what color it actually was without needing to see another photo of the dress.
Yeah. So what's your question, Cheryl?
What the heck?
Yes.
Like, how is it that you and I, or that so many people looked at the same photo and saw different things and then continued to be able to only see those things?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my question.
Okay. Basically, what's the science behind the different ways people saw the dress?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with our pre-assessment like always. What thoughts do you have around why that might be the case?
Well, my first thought when I first saw it, and still now I kind of wonder, is it like semantics or like just like a psychological thing of like, because like if you ask me, like because of my experience, if you ask me what is that color, I would say that color's gold. But if you ask me what color are the stripes on that dress, I'd be like, oh, they're black. So then it made me wonder, like, is it different people interpreting the question differently?
Okay.
But you telling me that you wouldn't have even been able to guess the true colors of the dress by that photo leads me to believe, okay, then that was not you and I understanding the question differently. That was actually that you and I had a different experience and continue to when you know the answer. And so then I wonder, like, and I've had this experience in other ways too, where like my husband and I will see a car drive by and he'll call it a blue car and I'll call it a silver car. And then I'm like, are we seeing the exact same thing, but using different words? Because these are all just words that we make up, right? Words for different colors. And so, but then I think also like, do we have different inclinations towards like, I would more easily call something silver and he would more easily call something blue and it's bluish silver? Or are we actually seeing that car differently? And then it makes me want, and then it's like, so when people don't like the way things taste, are they tasting it differently? Which is a different question for a different day, but kind of a similar thing of like, there are these things that are just in the world and they're true and they are what they are. And yet our bodies and our senses are experiencing them differently. And it's not that you're colorblind.
Nope.
And you're not even like partially colorblind. And so that's not it. So, and then I'm just like, well, here we are. And that's the extent of what my guesses are, is things that I already said can't be the case.
Okay. So just to summarize, what are the things you're like, well, it can't be this, it can't be this, it can't be this.
It can't be misinterpreting the question.
Okay.
It can't be that we're using different words, but we mean the same thing. It's not semantics. And I don't think it's psychological.
What do you mean by psychological?
Well, like to me, my psychological experience is like, it looks like gold, but I can tell it's really black. So like the photo looks gold, but I can go beyond that and think, oh, it's black. It's just in the photo it looks gold. You know what I mean? Like I figured that out before seeing that, but like, and that to me feels like a psychological experience a little bit.
Okay.
But that's not what it is. So it leads me to believe that we actually see colors differently than each other. And is that why some people hate certain colors so much? Because their eyes, they're having like a different experience. You don't have to answer that part. You may not know that part, but like it makes me wonder.
Okay. And then any ideas, if it is D, which what I'm hearing you say is you're not even convinced that it's that last option, but it's the only one that you can come up with at this point.
Yeah.
That people are actually seeing the colors differently. What might cause people to see the colors differently?
Their eyes.
Okay.
Because our eyes are how we see color, is how it like reflects off the back of our eye, right?
Okay.
And so is it similar to people who are colorblind? Is it like a much, much smaller scale of that, where just different people have different like experiences with color, I guess?
Okay. That's what you
big
got?
question mark. Yeah.
Okay, this is definitely an exciting way to end our color unit. This is a tough one, Cheryl.
Okay, good.
There's a lot going on here. I'm going to do my best to explain, and I'll put a bunch of links in the description to other articles that go into a whole lot more detail than what I'm going to be able to describe in a short little podcast. But basically, your final explanation that you came up to is the explanation. It's not semantics. It's not that they're seeing the same thing. It really is people see colors differently than each other.
Wow.
But it's not the same as being colorblind. And I don't think it has to do with our eyes.
Oh.
It has to do with our brain.
Really?
Yeah. Which is why I kind of asked a little bit about what you meant psychologically, because I don't think this is what you meant when you said psychologically, but I think you could make an argument that it is to some extent psychological. One of the things that I think maybe I mentioned in passing in an earlier lesson, but I might not have, is we've talked about color. This whole unit is all about color. We've talked about wavelengths and energy and rainbows and all of those things. But the reality is color, as we think of color, only exists when it passes through our eyes and our brains interpret those light waves and tell us what color it is.
So it is a construct.
In that sense, yes. Right? And so the color, and this is why in our last episode, we talked about, and I'm going to put this in quotes, colors that we can't see, like ultraviolet and microwave and X-rays and radio waves. Those are colors in the same way that there's a difference between red and blue because they're just different wavelengths of light. Radio waves and X-rays are just different wavelengths of light, but our eyes aren't sensitive to them and can't see them. So do we count that as a color or not? Because we can't see it. So is it a color? But it comes from the same sort of idea that we use to differentiate color for what we can see. And there's not really a right or wrong answer. It's just how do we want to define what color means?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When it comes to the dress, what we're doing is our brains are interpreting. And one of the things that optical illusions highlight is the amount of interpretation that our brains do all the time that we don't notice. Our brains are lazy. And I tell this to my students. And I not mean we are lazy, but our brains are lazy. They use shortcuts so that they don't have to process everything all the time. And that's a good thing. It's more efficient that way. It's more energy efficient. It's faster processing by just not processing everything all the time and using past experience to kind of come up with shortcuts to get to an answer for us as quickly as possible. And that, for the most part, is what we think is happening with the different perceptions of the dress. People are perceiving different lighting that led to what we actually see as the photograph. And one thing that you've mentioned this already, but is important, the dress is black and blue.
Yeah.
The photograph is neither black and blue nor white and gold. The photograph itself is something separate from the actual dress. The photograph isn't the dress. The photograph is something that was taken on a cell phone camera. And remember, this is 2015. So
Yeah.
it's not the same level of cell phone camera that we have today. And if you look at the background, it's super blown out in the back corner. And that is a cue to our brains that we use to interpret. Is it natural lighting? Is it artificial lighting? Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? Like all of those things are all cues that our brains use all the time to interpret color. So for example, I'm going to share my screen with you here real quickly. All right. This is from a Scientific American article. And again, I'll link this in the description. Do you see the stripes?
Yeah.
What color would you call these stripes?
Gold.
And like there's two bands of color. Sorry.
Blue.
Okay. These are the actual colors from the photograph pulled out without all the rest of the context. I would argue that, okay, sure, you could see gold, but it's really more sort of like a dirty yellow, almost brown.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blue is kind of like a pale periwinkle, well, not even but like, it's like, again, kind of a dirty-ish color. Like it's not really clearly, it's definitely not white.
Yeah.
Right? It's definitely more of a blue. And you could sort of argue gold, but also really more brown. Is that the color of puce that we were talking about with Beth earlier? Right? But like these are the actual colors in the photograph. Now, obviously, there's different levels of those colors in different parts. So it depends on which part of the photograph you pull it from. But these are those colors. It's none of the colors that we claim that it is.
Yeah, I think that's why I was trying to say, like, if you actually ask me what color the strips of the dress are, I'd say gold.
Right.
But I can tell that they're black. It's just like, I think that's kind of what you're saying is like my brain is doing a thing.
Yeah.
Of like trying to correct it.
Yep.
But also seeing gold if you directly ask me what color I'm seeing in the photo.
Yeah. And I even looked back at the dress. I still can't see black in most of the dress.
Wow.
If I look in the top left corner where it's the darkest, I almost see black.
Interesting. And you still see white for the blue.
No, it's not white. Like I know that the color isn't white. Yeah. Because it's like it's got the blue tint to it.
But you see like it's white and gold.
It's a white color with a blue tint on it.
And I see like when I look at that picture, I see like almost like a royal blue, like a blue.
Yeah, like which is what the actual color is, and I don't see that.
Interesting.
And so for whatever reason, our brains interpret those colors and those context clues very, very differently. And there's a question that you probably did when you were a kid as well, but like, okay, so if I've got like my pen, right? It's white, and what color would you call this?
Red.
Red. I would call that red as well. But how do I know that the red that you're seeing is the same red as the red that I'm seeing? Maybe what I see as red, you see as purple, but we've learned to call it red. And so, like, did you ever did that? And there's an element of truth to that, as in we do perceive, we learn what to call a thing, and then we assign that word to that color. But also we see and our brains interpret those things differently. And that's what I think the dress has brought out, is that the way our brains actually tell us what colors things are isn't always the same. Oftentimes it is. Under most circumstances, we tend to interpret things the same. There's a cool optical illusion. It's a black and white one, where based on the context, you see two squares and they look different. Let me see if I can find it. Have you seen this before?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
Okay, so if you look at square A and square B, and I apologize for everybody who is listening to this as a podcast, because you obviously, you can't see this all that easily. But again, I'll link to it in the description so you can come back and find it later. But would you say that those two are the same color?
No.
They are.
Really?
They are. They don't look the same color, but they are exactly the same color. And I've even done this in person where I printed it out and I cut out the squares myself and then moved them next to each other. And they are indeed the same color, but they don't even look like they're close to the same color, do they?
No.
Mm-mm. And it's because it's in a shadow of that green tube, the one square. And so our brains know that when things are in shadow, they're darker. So it is lightening up the color.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And like, there's no way to get around it. Now, you and I are seeing that the same way. That's what's unique about the dress, is people were seeing it differently.
Yes.
When most of the time our brains make those assumptions in more or less the same way.
Yeah.
But think of it like that colored square illusion, but with color and on a much bigger scale, where we're actually doing it a little bit differently. But that's an example of how we take these context clues.
Yeah.
And we interpret them differently.
That's so interesting.
Actually, here, I'll share one more time, just so in case it's helpful for you. Can you see the two now?
Oh, okay. So now I'm seeing the same thing, which is like kind of like it's like a computer generated 3D little checkerboard type of thing. And then there's a shadow cast up on part of the checkerboard. And then did you add this? Somebody else added this?
Somebody else did this, yeah.
Where they took just like big lines and laid over it. And they're the color of those two squares that we're discussing. Yep. And so it shows that they are the same color.
And you can see that they're the same color. Weird, huh?
And yet even in that, it like looks lighter on square B.
It does. Like you like, at least when I look at it, like if I really look and I focus on the bars, then I see that they're the same color.
Yeah.
But as soon as my eye goes up to A, B looks lighter again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not as much. It's not as big of a difference on the original one, but yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
So I think that is a little bit what I meant by psychological when I said it, as far as like I think my brain did do some correcting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why to me, it did depend on what question was being asked. Like, what color do you think this dress is versus like, what colors do you see are different?
But even once people clarified the question, the answers were still different.
True.
Right? Like for me, like I said, I know that the dress is blue and black.
Yeah.
I do not see it in the picture at all.
So interesting.
I do not see it. So even understanding what the question, like without knowing that reality of what the dress is, which we didn't for a while when the picture first came out.
Yes. Yeah.
People were debating it and they were like, no, it's definitely this. No, it's definitely this. Like I was definitely on the side of, no, it's definitely not blue and black. There's no way it could be blue and black.
Mm-hmm. But for me, my experience was like, I see blue and gold, but I know it's blue and black.
Yeah.
So it was doing some correction I was like aware of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Wow. That's so interesting. Well, Ryan, I actually have a fun little surprise for you.
Oh, okay.
This week. So in 2015, after this whole dress that broke the internet and our brains thing happened, a couple months later, I have two sisters. One of them was wearing this dress, not that dress, a dress
Okay.
that is striped.
Okay.
And the other one said, oh, I have that same dress, but in white and gold. And my sister Katie was wearing a dress in blue and black. And I was like, you guys have to wear them for Halloween and be
the dress.
So I have a photo to share with you.
Okay.
Because I want you to see this. And then their caption on the photo was, which one of us do you see?
Which Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So anyway, it was so fun that they happened to have these dresses and in the colors,
that's really funny.
So yeah, I loved that a lot.
That's very clever. Well, Cheryl, you know what comes next.
Unfortunately, I do. A not so pop quiz comes next.
Well, I'm going to pop one more on you and say, we're not going to do one this week.
Are you serious?
You shared a cool picture. You made a personal connection to what we've learned. It's the end of the unit. So what if we still do those reflection questions? Our unit reflection.
Okay. I guess those are a little better.
Quiz.
Sure.
Can you live with that?
I can live with that.
Okay, great. Thinking back on our entire color unit now, what were some things that you found interesting?
I mean, I think the whole thing about the waves, the light waves, because I really
Cheryl's
didn't
squiggling
know.
with her fingers.
I really didn't know that that's how color worked. Like I had no idea. So that was like a totally new thing that
like you hadn't learned about light waves at all?
Well, maybe.
But it wasn't something that you remembered.
It did not stick. Yes.
Okay.
And so that opened the door to so many other things that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some things that you found challenging in this unit?
It's the same as the last two units. It's those microscopic things.
Yeah.
That's like, it's hardest to wrap my head around, even when we start talking about like photons. Is that what they are? Photons. Electrons. Oh yeah. I'm just like, it's a thing. And apparently it helps with the glow in the dark, which I get that piece of it, but still it's just like those microscopic things just really are hard to grasp.
Yeah. But I think you've hit on one of the big challenges of science in general, not just for you, but I think for learning science. And one of the things as a teacher that we often try to do for students is make the connection between what's seen and what isn't seen. Right? Like, okay, so what's going on that we can't see, and how is that connected to the things that we can see? How are the two related? Because almost always you've got both of those things going on. Sometimes it's things that are small and microscopic. Sometimes it's things that we just can't see, like gravity.
Oh, yeah.
We can't see gravity. So how do we know what's going on? Well, we have to look at what we can see to figure out what's going on with the things that we can't see. But that's the challenge, because it's abstract. You have to make up these pictures and models in your head about how it all works.
Yeah.
But you're growing that skill, which means you're getting better as we go.
Hopefully.
You are. You are. Last reflection question. What concepts do you think you might remember or might stick with you?
Definitely the color is a construct.
Okay.
It's so interesting that it is something that is both happening in our brains and also is real.
Yeah.
And that like the waves, those are real measurements. There's a real thing, but that's really interesting. I think also, the rainbow thing was very cool. Just learning about the rainbow and like, again, it was like how it actually works. And this just like, that was really fun too. Yeah.
What do you think you might remember about how a rainbow works?
That it gets divided up. Like we have the opportunity to see the sunlight get divided. Like that is really unique.
Yeah.
That we get to actually like see it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I get excited and stuff like that too. But that's because I'm a science geek and I get excited about those sorts of things. So it's fun to have you do that as well. That's a great reflection. And that's going to bring our lesson to a close and our unit to a close.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, believe it or not, it's time for another unit, but not until next week. So why don't you go ahead and pack up your stuff and get ready for my closing remarks. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at I Slept Through Science or on Twitter at Slept Science.
If you have dumb science questions like I do, please send them to us. You can email us at isleptthroughscience@gmail.com, or you can even send us a voice memo and we'll play it on the podcast.
Please rate and review our podcast to tell other people what you think about it, subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode, and share about our podcast on social media.
Thank you to Beth Reed Miller for the artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
The bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you.